Invasion of the Dinosaurs, the second serial of Doctor Who's 11th season, first broadcast in 6 parts from the 12th of January to the 16th of February 1974. It was also around the area of this story that it was announced that John Pertwee would be leaving at the end of season 11. Now, this story has a particularly bad reputation, mainly because of its dinosaur effects. But what's the basic premise? The third Doctor, played by John Pertwee, and his companion, Sarah Jane Smith, played by Elizabeth Sladen, return from their previous adventure in the medieval period in The Time Warrior, only to find London seemingly deserted, apart from a few kind of looters and gangs roaming about the place. But they're eventually picked up by units including the Brigadier, played by Nicholas Courtney, Captain Mike Yates, played by Richard Franklin, and Sergeant John Benson, played by John Levine. But what they find is dinosaurs in London. There's literally dinosaurs all about the place, including pterodactyls, stegosauruses, Tyrannosaurus rex, uh, apatosauruses. You get the idea. Basically, dinosaurs roaming around the streets of London, and they can't entirely tell why. And every time they try and capture a dinosaur, the dinosaur promptly disappears. Like, it only appears for about a few minutes and then suddenly vanishes. Trying to get to the bottom of what is going on, they eventually run into a minister in London named Sir Charles Grover, played by Noel Johnson, a professor who specialises in time travel named Professor Whitaker, played by Peter Miles, and a general who has power over the Brigadier named General Finch, played by John Bennett. Now, the one thing I will say is that while the dinosaur effects are pretty bad in this, the dinosaurs are a bit clunky and it's pretty clear that they're not entirely there. They don't quite look real. I will say it's not all that bad. I mean, number one, the first episode of this particular story was sadly irretrievably lost at one point, but was then eventually returned to the BBC by 1970s DJ Ian Levine. It was eventually returned, but as a result of this, on the DVD at least, the first episode of Invasion of the Dinosaurs, simply titled Invasion, is in black and white. But this is one case where I think that with the bad dinosaur effects, it kind of works in black and white. I mean, the dinosaurs, when they move into colour, it is quite evident that the dinosaur effects aren't great. But in black and white, it actually, I think, works okay. I mean, in part one, when the Doctor and Sarah Jane are attacked by pterodactyls, in black and white, I actually thought it worked. It kind of reminded me of St. Patrick's Troughton stories from the 1960s. I thought it worked. And when, at the end of part one, when we see a Tyrannosaurus Rex looming around the buildings, it kind of reminded me of kind of Godzilla era Japanese monster movies. I felt it worked, but that's just me. And I do think that this is one case where if you take the dinosaurs out of the equation, the story on its own actually I think does work. Now, I'm about to go heavily into spoiler territory, so if you want to go off and see the episode before coming back to see the rest of this review, please go ahead. I'll give you a few seconds. Go off, go and watch the episode, or watch the story, and then come back. You're back? Okay. Because I'm about to go heavily into spoiler territory. Because I think if you took the dinosaurs out, the story actually I think does work on its own. What they eventually find is that there is a group that includes Grover, played by Noel Johnson, Professor Whitaker, General Finch, and also Captain Mike Yates of units. And what they're doing is using the time travel technology that they have available. They're using it to bring dinosaurs into London for mainly a few minutes. People get scared, and a mass evacuation of London is ordered. And they need this in order for that everyone's out of London so that they will be affected by the rays and they won't be kind of caught in the after effects. But what they plan to do is get everyone out of London. Then they've selected a group of a few people, about 200, whom they consider humanity's kind of best and brightest. They have claimed to them that they are leaving Earth on a spaceship and they are going to a new planet that they will turn into a new Earth. when in reality they're actually getting them to stay on Earth. And what they actually they load them up into a spaceship, which is actually underground, and they have more time travel kind of technology that they plan to use. As I said, they've got everyone to evacuate London. They got everyone underground in a spaceship, so to speak, and then they plan to set off essentially a large time wave which will reverse time, like literally rewind it for everyone who isn't in the kind of spaceship, and basically rewind time to a purer age, and then everyone who was inside that spaceship will become the new humanity. Basically, they want to essentially rewind time and then guide humanity down a better path than we have at the moment. Because, of course, in the modern age, with greed, pollution, war, climate change, and the like, it. And to be honest, upon watching this, I couldn't help but compare it to one of my favourite films of all time, Kingsman: The Secret Service. Because I will admit, I while they might seem different on the surface, they are actually remarkably similar if you look at it as a whole. Because they want to rewind time and then, with a select group of humans, effectively restart humanity and start a new golden age for planet Earth. Whereas that's essentially what Samuel L. Jackson's character was planning in the first Kingsman movie. He wanted to make everyone on Earth effectively kill each other, and then, with a few people who he chose to survive, start a new society. But don't. As I said, without the dinosaurs, I actually think this story actually does work. And the dinosaurs, I don't think are terrible. I mean, yeah, the effects are a little awkward with them, especially when we move into colour, but they're not the worst I've ever seen. I mean, it's not obviously sock puppet dinosaurs. They were legitimately trying, and you know what? I respect that. So, will your life ultimately be worth something if you don't see Invasion of Dinosaurs? I guess not, but you know what? I still say give it a chance. The effects might be a little odd, but you know what? I think the story more than makes up for it, and I do like how how the Doctor reacts with each member of the unit. I mean, yeah, Captain Mike Yates is ultimately working with the enemy, which does explain his found position in Planet of the Spiders, which came at the end of season 11. But I do like the chemistry he has with John Benson and with the Brigadier. Like, when they ultimately capture him for supposedly being the one to set up the dinosaurs, even though he's just being set up, Benson comes in and says, "Right, what's going on?" And then once the Doctor explains it to him, right, you better get going then. Oh, Doctor, we're gonna make it look like you overpowered me. So you know your Venusian type stuff. Better do it. So, and I do like it that they're not quite sure what side everyone's on. So I do like the chemistry they have there, and even when Benson kind of asks the Brigadier and he isn't sure what side he's on, and then the Brigadier just smiles and goes, "Well, we better get after him, shouldn't we?" just I love that. I mean, it tests how much each of the characters shows through. And I do like as well that Sarah Jane, while she does exhibit sometimes the portrayals of earlier companions, i.e., damsel in distress needing to be rescued, most of the time she just gets the hell on with it. That's what I think people liked about Sarah Jane, and that's what I like about her here. While I admit I wasn't sure about her in The Time Warrior, here I think she proves herself a good companion. Eve, even using logic at some points when I think other people would have just accepted it. Like when she was supposedly captured and brought to the spaceship, and they say they left Earth 3 months ago, she points out, "Look, before I was knocked out, I got a bruise, and the bruise is still here on my neck. If it had been 3 months, the bruise would have healed by now." Well, you're in suspended animation. Oh, come off it! I've only been here a few hours. I haven't been here 3 months. But I love that. She can be snappy, and she can fire back with the best of them. So, Invasion of the Dinosaurs. I think it gets a bad rap because of the dinosaur effects, which I admit are a little awkward, but I think the rest of the story more than makes up for it. So, Invasion of the Dinosaurs, I say give it another shot. You might just be surprised. Anyway, I only have one more story to review of season 11, and that is Death to the Daleks. What do I think of that? Well, we'll just have to wait and see. Until then, see ya.